Imagine this. A man who owns half the East Coast disappears the night his daughter is born. 93 days later, he slips back into the house he abandoned, just in time to watch her take her first steps toward a mother who no longer trusts him. He's smiling through the nursery window when a red dot appears on the baby's forehead. One squeeze of a trigger, and everything he ran from comes home to collect. The question isn't whether he'll kill to save her. It's how many graves he'll have to dig before sunrise, and whether the monster coming for his little girl is the one he already buried or the one still wearing his face. Before I hit play and drag you into this blood-soaked nightmare, drop a comment right now. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? Now, turn the lights off. Here we go. The rain came down in sheets, hard enough to sting skin and blur neon into blood smears across the windshield. Vincent Moretti stood motionless behind the wheel of the blacked-out Escalade, parked half a block from the brownstone he hadn't seen since the night his daughter drew her first breath. 93 days. He had counted every single one like rosary beads soaked in gun oil. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, the only part of him that moved. The Glock 19 on his hip was still warm from the body he'd dropped in Camden an hour ago. The silencer was cooling in the glove box next to a pacifier he'd never used. Irony tasted like copper. He killed the engine. The silence that followed felt heavier than any firefight. Vincent stepped into the storm. No umbrella, no bodyguard tonight. He wanted the rain to punish him before she did. Water sluiced off the black trench coat that had once belonged to his father, the one he'd worn the night he put 6 rounds in the old man's chest and took the crown. The coat was armor once. Now it felt like a shroud. He crossed the street slowly, boots splashing through puddles that reflected the orange glow of the streetlights like fresh spills. Every security camera on the block was his. Every shadow belonged to him, yet he moved like a thief. Because that's what he was now, a man stealing a glimpse of the life he'd thrown away. The brownstone stood 4 stories of brick and bulletproof glass, elegant bars on the windows disguised as wrought iron. He could have walked straight through the front door. The biometric lock still carried his print. Or instead, he slipped down the side alley and climbed the fire escape he'd installed himself the week Serena told him she was pregnant, back when he still believed he could keep the darkness out. 3rd floor, nursery window. The curtains were open just enough. Serena was on the floor in a black silk robe that had slipped off one shoulder, revealing the faint white scar where a stray round had kissed her the night they met. Her dark hair was longer now, loose and wild, the way it got when she hadn't slept in days. She was crying, but silently, the way soldiers cry, like the tears were just another bodily fluid she refused to acknowledge. And Luna, his daughter, 11 months of reckless courage packed into 14 pounds, stood swaying on chubby legs in the middle of the rug. She wore footy pajamas printed with tiny moons. One hand gripped the edge of the ottoman, the other reached for her mother like Serena was the only fixed point in a spinning world. Vincent's heart cracked open so violently he tasted blood. Luna let go. 1 step, a second. Her little face fierce with concentration, mouth open in a silent gasp of triumph. She stumbled the final foot and crashed into Serena's waiting arms. Serena laughed through the tears, a broken, beautiful sound, and buried her face in Luna's curls. "That's my brave girl. That's my perfect girl." Vincent's hand was on the glass before he realized he'd moved. The cold burned. He couldn't breathe. His daughter, his blood, had just walked for the first time, and the only arms she knew to fall into were not his. Inside, Serena's head snapped up, her eyes locked on the window, on him. The laughter died. The tears dried like someone had flipped a switch. She rose slowly, cradling Luna against her hip like a shield. The robe falling closed, every inch the federal prosecutor who once stared down made men without flinching. Vincent pushed the window up. Rain blew in, soaking the sill. Serena didn't move, didn't speak. just watched him with those predator green eyes that had once looked at him like he was salvation. He stepped over the ledge and into the room that smelled of baby powder and betrayal. Luna twisted in her mother's arms, curious about the stranger dripping on the hardwood. She blinked big gray eyes, his eyes, and offered him a drooly smile that punched straight through his ribcage. Vincent took one step toward them, his voice raw from disuse. "Serena, don't." One word, sharp as a scalpel. She shifted Luna higher, angling the baby's body away from him. "You don't get to walk back in and play daddy, Vince." He stopped, every muscle locked. "I know what I did." "You know nothing." Her voice was low, lethal. "You weren't here for the colic nights that never ended. You weren't here when she screamed for hours and I cried in the shower so she wouldn't hear. You weren't here for her first laugh, her first tooth, her first fever." Serena's eyes glittered like broken glass. "You don't even know what her cry means when she's hungry versus when she's tired. You're a ghost who pays the bills." Vincent's jaw worked. Blood roared in his ears louder than the storm. "I thought if I stayed away—" "You thought wrong," she cut him off. "You left us to the wolves so you could keep your hands clean. Newsflash, Vincent, the wolves came anyway." Luna began to fuss, sensing the rage crackling between them. Serena bounced her gently, never taking her eyes off him. "You have until sunrise to decide if you're staying or disappearing for good. But if you stay, you don't get to half-ass this. You want in? You bleed for it. Starting now." Vincent opened his mouth, some useless promise, some plea. But the words never came, because that's when he saw it. A red laser dot sliding across the nursery wall like a drop of fresh blood. It crawled over the pastel moon decals, over the mobile of tiny stars, and settled with cold precision on the center of his daughter's forehead. Vincent's entire world narrowed to that single crimson point. He didn't think. He moved. He lunged forward, roaring Serena's name as the window behind him exploded in a hail of suppressed gunfire. The window exploded inward before the sound of the first shot reached them. Vincent Moretti crossed the 6 feet between him and his family in a single impossible lunge, shoulder lowered like a battering ram. The second round took a chunk out of the door frame where Serena's head had been. The third punched through the mobile above the crib, plastic stars spinning wildly as they died. He hit them low and hard, driving Serena to the floor, his body a 200-pound shield. Luna was crushed between them, her scream muffled against his chest. Glass shards sliced across his neck and scalp, hot blood running instantly. He didn't feel it. All he felt was the tiny, frantic heartbeat hammering against his ribs. The shooter was using a suppressor. The shots were coughs, not bangs. Professional, patient. Across the street, third-floor window of the vacant townhouse Vince himself had bought years ago to keep the sightline clear. He'd created the perfect sniper's nest and never thought to lock himself out of it. He shoved one hand under his coat, came out with the Glock already racked. Serena's eyes were wide, feral, fixed on the ruined window as plaster dust drifted like smoke. Vincent rolled to his knees, keeping mother and child behind the solid oak dresser, and blind-fired 8 rounds through the shattered pane. The muzzle flash lit the room white, brass casings bouncing off the hardwood like golden rain. Return fire stopped. For 3 heartbeats, the only sound was Luna's raw, panicked wailing and the rain hammering the broken sill. Vincent's ears rang. Blood dripped from his hairline onto Luna's cheek. The baby stared up at him with huge, wet eyes. Confused why the stranger was bleeding on her, Serena's temple was sliced open, a red ribbon running down her jaw, soaking the collar of the black robe. She didn't even blink at her own wound. Her gaze was locked on the night outside, calculating angles the way she used to calculate indictments. Vincent's phone vibrated once against his ribs. Unknown number. He thumbed it open with his free hand, gun still trained on the window. The voice that came through was calm, almost amused, filtered through a distorter. "You left them unprotected, Moretti. Next time I won't miss the child." The line went dead. Vincent stared at the screen until it went black. He knew that cadence, knew the arrogance behind the distortion. Only one man spoke about his family like they were already corpses. Serena moved first. 1 second, Luna was in her arms. The next, the baby was on the floor behind the dresser, and Serena had Vincent's own Glock ripped from his grip, faster than most of his soldiers could draw. The barrel jammed hard under his chin, forcing his head back until the dresser bit into his spine. Her hand didn't shake. Her eyes were green hellfire. "Name," she hissed, voice raw from screaming and smoke. "Who did you piss off bad enough to put around through my daughter's bedroom at 2 a.m? Blood dripped from her temple onto the slide of the gun. Luna's cries echoed off the walls like a siren that would never stop. Vincent swallowed against the steel. The answer was poison on his tongue, because the man on the phone wasn't just an enemy. He was the one ghost Vincent had buried 5 years ago and sworn would never crawl out of the grave. Serena's finger tightened on the trigger. "Talk, Vince, or the next body tonight is yours." The nursery was a war zone in miniature. Plaster dust hung thick in the air, mixing with the metallic stink of cordite and the copper tang of blood. The mobile lay in pieces. Tiny plastic stars shattered across the rug like fallen constellations. The crib mattress smoked where a round had punched clean through. Rain blew sideways through the blown-out window, soaking everything in seconds. Vincent knelt in the wreckage, chest heaving, Glock still smoking in his right hand. His left arm was locked around Serena and Luna, pinning them to the floor behind the overturned dresser. Shards of glass glittered in his hair like diamonds. A deep slice ran from his ear to his collar, pouring blood down the side of his neck, soaking the white shirt until it clung transparent to the ink and scars beneath. Luna's screams had gone hoarse, raw little sobs that tore out of her tiny body in waves. Her face was scarlet, fists balled, legs kicking against Serena's ribs. Serena herself was bleeding from a grazing furrow along her left temple. The bullet had kissed skin and taken hair with it, leaving a raw red trench that wept steadily. The blood tracked down her cheek, over her jaw, dripped off her chin onto Luna's pajamas. She didn't wipe it away. She didn't even seem to feel it. Her eyes were locked on Vincent with a fury colder than the rain. Vincent's ears still rang from his own gunfire. 8 rounds, maybe 9. He'd emptied half the mag blind through the window, muzzle flashes strobing the room white. Brass casings rolled across the floorboards, ticking as they cooled. Outside, nothing moved. The shooter had melted back into the night the second return fire came. He shifted his weight, trying to ease off them, but Serena's arm snapped out like a viper, fingers clamping around his wrist, hard enough to bruise bone. "Don't you dare move yet!" she snarled, voice low and lethal. Luna hiccuped between them, snot and tears and his blood smeared across her cheeks. She reached one trembling hand toward Vincent's face, confused, curious, terrified. Her tiny fingers brushed the blood on his jaw and she jerked back with a fresh wail. Vincent's phone vibrated again, once, insistent. He fished it out with the hand not holding the gun. Unknown number, same as before. He hit speaker and held it between them so Serena could hear every word. The distorted voice slid out like smoke under a door. "Sloppy, Vincent. You always did shoot first and think never. You left them unprotected. Next time, I won't miss the child." The line clicked dead. Serena's pupils blew wide. For one heartbeat, the only sound was Luna's broken breathing and the rain. Then Serena moved. Faster than Vincent thought possible for a woman who'd just been shot at. She twisted, ripped the Glock from his loosened grip, and rolled to her knees. In one fluid motion, she jammed the barrel up under his chin, so hard his teeth clicked. The front sight dug a crescent into the soft skin beneath his jaw. Luna, suddenly free, crawled 2 frantic feet away and collapsed against the baseboard, sobbing. Serena's chest rose and fell in savage bursts. Blood dripped from her temple in perfect rhythm with the rain. "Name," she said, voice barely above a whisper, but sharp enough to cut steel. "You give me the name of the man who just tried to murder my daughter in her sleep, or I paint this wall with what's left of your brain." The gun didn't waver. Her finger was white on the trigger. Vincent stared into her eyes and saw something that scared him more than any rival ever had. A mother who had nothing left to lose. He tasted blood and gunpowder and regret. "Damien Crowe," he said finally, the name scraping out like gravel. "I buried him 5 years ago. Somebody just dug him up." Serena's lips peeled back from her teeth in something too feral to be a smile. Outside, thunder rolled over Philadelphia like God clearing his throat. And then, from the hallway, came the unmistakable metallic click of a shotgun being racked. Someone else was already inside the house. The safe house basement smelled of damp concrete, bleach, and old blood. A single hanging bulb swung overhead, throwing long shadows across the card table, where Serena sat stitching her own temple with a hooked needle and black thread. No anesthetic. She'd refused the lidocaine Vincent offered. Each time the needle punched through skin, she didn't flinch, only exhaled through her teeth like she was savoring the pain. Vincent leaned against the far wall, arms folded tight to keep his hands from shaking. Luna slept upstairs in the steel-walled panic room, drugged with half a dropper of children's Benadryl so the nightmares wouldn't wake her for a few hours. Rosa guarded the door with a sawed-off and orders to shoot anyone who wasn't Serena or him. Serena tied off the last knot, bit the thread, and pressed a square of gauze to the wound. 8 stitches. Perfect ladder. She finally looked at him. "You have 7 days," she said, voice flat as a blade. "1 week to prove this family is no longer collateral damage in your war. After that, I take Luna and you never find us. Not even your ghosts will find us." Vincent's throat worked. "You know what I cost you." "You know nothing." She stood, swaying only once, and slapped a thick folder onto the table. "These are the medical bills from when she had RSV at 4 months. These are the threats I deleted so you could sleep at night. This is the obituary I wrote for myself in case someone else's name." She tapped the last page. "And this is the offshore account with $52 million in it. Enough to buy new lives on the other side of the planet. 1 week, Vince. Then I'm gone." He stepped forward. She stepped back, hand dropping to the .38 strapped to her thigh. The message was clear. "Touch me and lose fingers." "I'll burn the city down to keep you here," he said. "Then start burning," she answered. "Because right now, the only thing keeping me from putting a bullet in you is the fact Luna shares your eyes." Upstairs, a phone rang. 3 short bursts, Marco's emergency tone. Vincent snatched the burner off the wall. "Talk." Marco's voice was shredded. "They hit the armory on Front Street, took 3 of our guys alive. Crow sent a picture. Tommy, Rico, and little Frankie nailed to the wall like Christ. Message says you come alone to the old sugar refinery by dawn, or he starts mailing pieces." Vincent closed his eyes. Serena watched every flicker across his face. "Tell him I'll be there," Vincent said. He hung up. The silence stretched until it screamed. Serena's laugh was soft and poisonous. "There it is. First test, and you're already reaching for your coat." "This isn't choice," he growled. "He has my men." "They were your men the night you walked out on us, too." She moved until they were nose to nose. "You want redemption? Then choose whose blood matters more tonight, theirs or ours." Vincent's pulse thundered in his ears. He looked toward the stairs that led to the panic room where his daughter slept. Serena saw it. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Something almost like hope flickered, then died again. The basement door exploded inward. Rosa flew down the steps backward, shotgun clattering, throat opened ear to ear. She hit the ground, already dead. A silhouette filled the doorway, tall, lean, wearing a black balaclava and holding a dripping fire axe. The intruder raised the axe and spoke in Damien Crow's real voice. No distorter this time, smooth as silk and twice as cruel. "Hello, Vincent. Time's up. The little princess upstairs is coming with me." The axe came down in a silver arc straight toward Serena's head. The old sugar refinery on the Delaware stank of burnt caramel and rust. Moonlight knifed through broken skylights, painting the concrete floor in silver shards. Vincent walked in alone, coat open, hands empty, boots crunching over decades of crystallized sugar that looked like dirty snow. He had left the safe house through the back tunnel the second the axe started its descent. Serena's scream still chased him. He hadn't looked back. If he had, he would never have made it out. Some choices you make with your spine, not your heart. Inside the main hall, chains hung from the rafters like jungle vines. 3 of his soldiers hung from those chains, arms wrenched high, toes barely scraping the ground. Tommy, Rico, little Frankie. Their shirts were gone, torsos carved with fresh sigils. Crow's new calling card, a crow in flight, wings made of knives. Blood dripped in slow, steady rhythms, plink, 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 into the sugar below. They were alive, barely. Eyes swollen shut, lips split, but breathing. Damien Crow waited beneath them in a tailored midnight suit, white shirt open at the throat, gold crow pin glinting. He looked like a banker who moonlighted as a butcher. 24 of his men ringed the room, rifles loose but ready. Crow smiled the same smile he'd worn the night he betrayed Vincent 5 years ago. The night Vincent put 3 in his chest and watched him fall into the squeal kill. "You look like shit, Vinny," Crow said, voice warm, almost fond. "Fatherhood not agreeing with you?" Vincent stopped 10 feet away. "Let them down." "In a minute." Crow strolled closer, hands in pockets. "First the offer. Walk away from Philadelphia. Tonight. Leave the woman, leave the kid, leave the crown. I'll even let these 3 live as a parting gift. You disappear to whatever island buys amnesia these days. Everybody wins." Vincent's laugh scraped out like broken glass. "You crawled out of a grave to beg for table scraps." "I crawled out of a grave to take what you stole." Crow's smile vanished. "You put me in the river with cement shoes. I woke up in a shipping container headed to Albania. Took me 4 years, 11 bodies, and one very expensive surgeon to come home pretty again." He spread his arms. "Surprise!" Vincent's eyes flicked to his men, to the chains, to the red plastic jerrycans stacked against the far wall. Gasoline. Crow wasn't planning on letting anyone walk. "Last chance," Crow said softly. "Walk or I start with the baby. I know exactly where your safe house is. Cute little panic room. Rosa put up a fight, by the way. Shame about her throat." Vincent's control snapped like a frayed wire. He lunged. Crow's men moved at the same instant. Rifles rose. Vincent didn't slow. He hit Crow like a freight train, driving him backward into a steel support beam. Bone cracked. Crow grunted, surprised for the first time. Vincent's hands closed around his throat, thumbs crushing the windpipe. Gunshots roared. Bullets sparked off the beam inches from Vincent's head. He didn't let go. Crow clawed at Vincent's wrists, eyes bulging, then slammed a knee up into Vincent's balls. Air exploded from Vincent's lungs. Crow twisted free, coughing, and backhanded him with a sapphire pinky ring that opened Vincent's cheek to the bone. They crashed through a rotted catwalk railing and fell 10 feet into the lower processing pit, landing in ankle-deep sugar and blood. Vincent came up swinging. Crow ducked, drew a matte black pistol, and pressed it under Vincent's chin. "Time to choose, old friend," Crow hissed. Behind them, one of Crow's men doused Tommy, Rico, and Frankie with gasoline. The sharp reek flooded the air. Another man flicked open a Zippo. Vincent froze. Crow's grin returned, wider, shark-like. "Walk away, Vincent, or I barbecue." Vincent stared at the lighter's tiny blue flame dancing in the dark. Then his phone vibrated in his pocket. Once. A picture message. He knew before he looked. The screen lit his face in cold white. Serena's car, a black Mercedes G-Wagon engulfed in a roaring orange fireball on the Ben Franklin Bridge, the explosion frozen mid-bloom like a deadly flower. Crow laughed, low and delighted. "Oops, looks like your wife just became a Roman candle." The lighter snapped shut. The refinery lights died, plunging everything into absolute black. And from the darkness came the unmistakable click-click of a pump shotgun being racked, right behind Damian Crow's head. The refinery lights died with a final electric sigh, leaving only the orange flicker from the phone screen still burning Serena's car into Vincent's retinas. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The image was a still frame of hell. The G-Wagon flipped on its roof, flames chewing through steel and glass, the bridge cables behind it glowing like harp strings in a furnace. Crow's laughter echoed in the sudden dark. "One down! One to go!" Vincent's knees almost buckled. The only thing keeping him upright was the animal refusal to die in front of this man. Then the shotgun racked again, closer, deliberate. A woman's voice, low and familiar, cut through the black. "Back away from him, Damian, slowly." Rosa, who Vincent had watched bleed out on the basement stairs 20 minutes ago. Rosa, whose throat had been opened ear to ear. Crow froze. The gasoline-soaked air tasted like terror. A single emergency light kicked on overhead, weak and red, bathing the pit in blood color. Rosa stood on the catwalk above, alive, neck wrapped in a crimson-soaked scarf that hid the wound. In her hands, Vincent's own sawed-off Remington, the one he kept under the driver's seat of the Escalade. She had the stock folded, muzzle trained on Crow's skull. Crow recovered first. "You're supposed to be dead. Disappointed?" Rosa's accent was thicker when she was furious. "Your boy in the ski mask rushed the cut. I played possum." Vincent used the distraction. He surged up, snatched the pistol Crow had pressed under his chin seconds earlier, and drove his elbow into Crow's throat. Cartilage crunched. Crow dropped, gagging. Vincent spun, gun sweeping the shadows. Crow's men hesitated, rifles half raised, unsure who to shoot now that their boss was choking on the floor. Rosa jumped the railing, landed cat-like beside Vincent. "We have maybe 40 seconds before they grow balls again." Vincent was already moving, sprinting toward the loading bay doors. Rosa covered his six, shotgun barking once. Someone screamed and fell. Outside, the night was wet and cold. Vincent's Escalade sat where he'd left it, but the G-Wagon was supposed to be in New York by now. Serena had texted him an hour ago, saying she was taking Luna to her sister's safe house in Jersey, while he handled the refinery meet. She was never supposed to be on that bridge. He vaulted into the driver's seat, keyed the engine. Rosa slid in beside him, racking a fresh shell. Vincent floored it, tires screaming on wet asphalt, the refinery shrinking in the rear view. He hit 90 before they reached the on-ramp. The bridge was chaos when they arrived. Police lights strobed red and blue across the water. Fire crews battled a blaze that lit the sky the color of fresh arterial blood. The G-Wagon lay on its roof like a gutted beast, flames still licking from the undercarriage. Vincent was out before the SUV stopped rolling. He ran straight through the police tape, ignoring shouted orders, boots pounding the asphalt that still radiated heat. A cop tried to grab him. Vincent put the man on his ass without breaking stride. He reached the wreck, and the heat slapped him like a physical blow. The windows were black holes. The doors melted shut. "Serena!" His voice cracked raw. He dropped to his knees, reached bare-handed into the shattered side window. Flames kissed his forearms, skin blistering instantly. He didn't feel it. His fingers found fabric, Serena's coat, then an arm. Limp, unnaturally hot. He pulled. Serena came out in a tangle of limbs and blood, unconscious, face black with soot, hair singed. Her pulse fluttered weak against his thumb. Behind her, the passenger seat was empty. The car seat was gone. Luna wasn't inside. Vincent's heart stopped. A weak cough against his chest. Serena's eyes fluttered open, pupils blown wide from smoke. She tried to speak, only managed a rasp. He leaned close. "Rosa pulled me out," she whispered. "Luna, he took her. Crow has her?" Vincent looked back at the burning car. The rear hatch had been jimmied open from the outside. Clean cuts. Professional. Rosa limped up beside him, scarf darker now with fresh blood. "I got Serena clear 2 seconds before the tank went up. I saw a black van speeding east on Pattison. 2 men in the front, 1 in back, holding something small. A baby blanket." Vincent's vision tunneled. Crow hadn't blown the car to kill Serena. He'd staged the explosion as cover to snatch Luna while everyone focused on the fire. Serena gripped his wrist with surprising strength, nails digging bloody crescents. "Bring her back," she rasped, coughing black phlegm. "Or don't come back at all." Sirens wailed closer. Firefighters dragged hoses. Cops were circling, guns drawn. Vincent stood, cradling Serena against his chest like she weighed nothing. Her blood soaked through his shirt. Hot and slick. Rosa met his eyes. Liberty Docks, midnight. That's the only place he could take her this fast without hitting checkpoints. Vincent looked at the inferno that almost stole his entire world, then at the woman bleeding in his arms. He pressed his lips to Serena's forehead, tasting ash and terror. "Midnight," he said. Rosa tossed him a fresh magazine. He caught it one-handed. Behind them, a fireman shouted that the gas tank was about to go again. Vincent turned toward the Escalade, Serena still in his arms, Rosa already limping ahead to open the door, and in the pocket of Serena's ruined coat, her phone buzzed once against Vincent's ribs. Unknown number. A new photo message. He thumbed it open with his bloody thumb. The picture loaded slow, cruel. Luna, wide awake, sitting on a concrete floor in nothing but a diaper. Tears streaking her cheeks, a single red ribbon tied around her tiny ankle like a leash. Underneath, white text on black. "One father for one daughter. Liberty Docks, midnight. Come alone or the next picture is her in pieces." And at the bottom, a countdown timer already running. 03:41, 12, 03:41, 03:41:10. Vincent's roar shattered the night louder than any explosion. He slid Serena into the back seat, slammed the door, and floored it toward the river, tires screaming like the damned. As the Escalade disappeared into the dark, a single object floated to the surface of the water beneath the bridge. A tiny pink waterlogged shoe with a little silver moon on the side. Luna's shoe. It bobbed once, twice, then sank beneath the black water, swallowed whole. Liberty Docks reeked of diesel, dead fish, and the low-tide rot that never quite left the Delaware. Midnight came in cold and wet, the moon a thin blade behind shredded clouds. Vincent killed the headlights 2 blocks out and rolled the Escalade to a silent stop between 2 rusted shipping containers. The engine ticked itself to death while he stared at the black water and tried to remember how to pray. He left every weapon in the SUV except 1 suppressed Glock and a straight razor taped beneath his wrist. Crow had said, "Come alone." Vincent intended to come alone, but not unarmed. The pier stretched ahead like a broken finger pointing at nothing. Crates towered on both sides, forming corridors of shadow. Somewhere out there, his daughter was breathing someone else's air. Vincent walked the center line, boots quiet on cracked concrete, coat flapping like a raven's wing. Salt wind cut through the blood dried on his neck. He tasted iron and gasoline, and the last 3 hours of his life collapsing into this single moment. Halfway down the pier, a floodlight snapped on, blinding white. Vincent froze, hand on the Glock. Damien Crow stepped into the circle of light, hands in the pockets of a long cashmere coat, smiling like a man who'd already won. Behind him stood a woman Vincent had murdered 5 years ago, Elena Crow. Damien's younger sister, the one Vincent had ordered drowned in the school kill the night he took the family apart. She was thinner now, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass, black hair shorn close to the scalp, a jagged scar running from her left ear to the corner of her mouth. In her arms, she cradled Luna, wrapped in a gray wool blanket. The baby's eyes were huge, glassy with exhaustion and fear, but alive. Vincent's heart punched his ribs so hard he felt it in his teeth. Elena's smile was slow, poisonous. "You look surprised, Vincent. Didn't think corpses kept such good company?" Crow chuckled. "Turns out my sister's harder to kill than I am. She washed up in Maryland with a pulse and a grudge. Took her a while to find me in Albania. Family reunions are hell." Vincent didn't speak. Couldn't. All the oxygen belonged to the sight of Luna's tiny chest rising and falling against Elena's body. Crow tilted his head. "Here's how this ends. You kneel. You put your gun on the ground. You beg. Then maybe, the kid gets to grow up. Your choice." Vincent's fingers flexed. The Glock felt welded to his palm. Elena shifted Luna higher, one hand sliding beneath the blanket. Vincent saw the dull glint of a chrome pistol pressed flat against his daughter's spine. Luna whimpered, a small broken sound that shredded the night. Vincent dropped to one knee, slowly, deliberately. The Glock clattered to the concrete. Crow's grin widened. There it is, the king on his knees. Vincent's eyes never left Elena. "You want me dead? Take me. She has nothing to do with this." Elena laughed, soft and terrible. "You took my family, Vincent. My brother bled out in my arms because of you. My father rotted in a federal cage until cancer ate him. You don't get to bargain." She lifted the pistol from under the blanket and pressed the muzzle to Luna's temple. Luna began to cry in earnest, thin and desperate. Vincent's voice cracked. "Elena, shut up." She thumbed the hammer back. "Watch." Time slowed to syrup. Vincent saw every detail, the scar tissue pulling at Elena's lip, the tremor in Crow's left hand, the way Luna's tiny fists clutched at Elena's coat like it was her mother. Elena's finger whitened on the trigger. Click. Empty chamber. She laughed again, colder this time. "Tomorrow night she won't be so lucky." Crow clapped once, delighted. "Insurance policy keeps you obedient." Vincent's entire body vibrated with the need to tear them apart with his teeth. Crow stepped closer, boots crunching. "Here's the new deal. You have 24 hours to transfer every territory, every account, every soldier to my name. You sign it all away in blood. Then we give you the kid back in installments, a finger for every refusal, starting with the left pinky." Elena bounced Luna gently, mock-soothing. "Tick-tock, Daddy." Vincent rose slowly, hands open at his sides. "You want my empire? Take it. But you give me my daughter now." Crow shook his head, almost pitying. "You still don't get it. This isn't about territory anymore. This is about watching you bleed out slow." Elena turned, carrying Luna toward a waiting speedboat moored at the end of the pier. Luna's cries sharpened, reaching for the father she barely knew. Vincent took one involuntary step forward. Crow drew his own pistol and shot Vincent in the thigh without warning. The round tore through muscle and bone. Vincent dropped hard, blood already pooling hot and fast. Crow crouched, pressed the hot suppressor to Vincent's cheek. 24 hours, we'll text the address. Bring a pen and a body bag." He stood, kicked the Glock into the water, and walked away. Elena paused at the edge of the floodlight. She looked back once, eyes dead black. "Tell Serena the next time she sends the FBI after my family, I send her daughter back in a lunchbox." She stepped onto the boat. The engine growled to life. Vincent dragged himself across the concrete, fingers clawing for the dark water where his gun had vanished. Blood poured from his leg in rhythmic pulses. The boat pulled away, Luna's cries swallowed by the engine and the night. Vincent screamed her name until his voice shredded. Then headlights flared behind him, 2 SUVs screeching onto the pier, doors flying open. Marco and 6 soldiers spilled out, weapons up. Marco reached him first, dropped to his knees in the blood. "Boss, Jesus Christ." Vincent grabbed Marco's collar with both fists, face inches away, eyes wild. "Find that boat," he snarled through blood-flecked teeth. "Burn the river if you have to. I want my daughter back tonight." Marco nodded, already shouting orders. Vincent sagged back, staring at the empty water where the boat had disappeared. From the darkness beyond the floodlight, a single red ribbon drifted down and landed in the pool of his blood. The same ribbon that had been tied around Luna's ankle. Vincent picked it up with shaking fingers, and somewhere in the distance, a burner phone began to ring with a number he didn't know. He answered. Serena's voice, weak, raspy from smoke, but unmistakably alive and furious. "Vincent, I just made a deal with the devil to get our daughter back, and you're not going to like the price." The line crackled. Then she said the words that turned his blood to ice. "I'm wearing a wire for the FBI, and they want you in cuffs by sunrise." Vincent limped through the safe house door at 4:47 a.m., blood soaking his pant leg, thigh crudely tourniqueted with his own belt. The place was a converted warehouse in Kensington, steel walls, no windows, one way in, one way out. Marco's soldiers guarded the perimeter like wolves on chains. Inside, the air stank of antiseptic and rage. Serena sat on a metal table under a single surgical lamp, shirt cut away, torso wrapped in fresh gauze already blooming red. An IV line ran from her arm to a bag of saline Rosa had stolen from an ER. Her face was gray, lips cracked, but her eyes burned green fire when they landed on him. Vincent stopped 5 feet away, couldn't get closer. The space between them felt radioactive. "You sold me," he said, voice flat, dead. Serena didn't blink. "I bought Luna's life. Same currency." Rosa stood in the corner, arms crossed, face unreadable. Marco hovered near the door, knuckles white on an AR-15. Nobody spoke. Vincent pulled the burner from his pocket, thumbed it alive, and tossed it onto the table. The last message still glowed. A new photo of Luna, asleep on a bare mattress, wrists bound with pink tape, time-stamped 23 minutes ago. "Explain," he said. Serena's voice came out hoarse from smoke damage. "FBI had a wiretap on Crow's sat phone. They heard the exchange at the docks. Special agent in charge offered me a deal 30 minutes after the boat disappeared. Full immunity for Luna and me. RICO evidence on Crow. And they stage a raid that gets her out alive. In return, I wear a wire, walk into Crow's compound tonight, and record him confessing every crime from here to the Atlantic." Vincent laughed once, a sound like breaking bone. "You trust the feds to keep their word? They've been trying to cage me for 15 years. "I trust them to want Crow more than they want you," she snapped. "He's moving girls through the port again. 12-year-olds. They'll trade your head for his if it stops that pipeline." Vincent stepped closer, pain shooting white-hot up his leg. "And after they have the recording, what happens to me?" Serena met his eyes without flinching. "You disappear. New names, new country. They give us 48 hours head start before your file hits the marshal's desk. You never come back." The room went so quiet he could hear the IV dripping. Vincent stared at her like he was seeing a stranger wearing his wife's skin. "You're asking me to abandon everything I built. I'm asking you to be a father instead of a fucking monument." Her voice cracked on the last word. Blood seeped through the gauze faster. "Luna doesn't need an empire. She needs you breathing." He dragged a hand through his hair, leaving bloody fingerprints. "Crow will smell the wire 3 miles out." "They gave me a new generation transmitter, subdermal, under the skin graft on my shoulder blade. Can't be detected by standard sweeps." She turned slightly, showing the fresh stitches beneath the bandage. "I'm already lit up like a Christmas tree for their receivers." Vincent's gaze dropped to the floor. He saw Luna's tiny moon-printed sock lying discarded where Rosa had cut it off her burned foot. Something inside him fractured. "How long do you have?" he asked. 0300 tomorrow. Crow wants the territory transfer signed at his compound in Fishtown. I walk in as the loyal wife delivering your surrender. He brags. I record. They breach. Vincent's jaw flexed. He'll kill you the second the ink dries. That's why the raid happens the minute he starts talking. She leaned forward, pain carving deeper lines around her eyes. But I need something from you first. He waited. Proof, she said. Proof you're willing to burn it all down for her. Because if I walk in there tomorrow and Crow senses even a flicker of you still clinging to power, he'll gut me and mail Luna's fingers to the news stations. Vincent's hands curled into fists. Blood dripped from the cuff of his coat. Tell me what you need. Serena reached under the table and slid out a black tactical bag, unzipped it. Inside, bricks of C4, detonators, burner phones, and a list of every Moretti safe house, stash house, and money laundry in the tri-state area. Tonight, she said, you wire every location on this list with enough plastic to level city blocks. At 03:05 tomorrow, the second I give the signal, you blow them all. Every dollar, every weapon, every secret. You erase the Moretti name from the earth. That's the only way Crow believes you're broken. Vincent stared at the explosives like they were a death sentence written in his own handwriting. Serena's voice dropped to a whisper. Do this, and the feds let you vanish with us. Refuse, and they take you tonight in cuffs while Crow raises our daughter as bait. He looked at her then. Really looked. Saw the tremor in her lower lip she refused to let become a sob, the way her fingers kept brushing the empty space on her chest, where Luna should have been. Vincent picked up the bag. The weight felt like the end of the world. I'll do it, he said. Relief flashed across her face, gone just as fast. Marco stepped forward, voice rough. Boss, you detonate those sites, there's no coming back. Every family from New York to Baltimore will put a price on your head. Vincent didn't look at him. Then let them come. He slung the bag over his shoulder and turned to leave. Serena's hand shot out, caught his wrist. Her grip was fire. Vincent! Her voice cracked wide open. When this is over, if we survive, you don't get to run anymore. You stay. You be her father. Every day, every nightmare, every sunrise. Swear it. He bent, pressed his forehead to hers, tasting blood and salt and terror. I swear on every grave I dug, he whispered. I will burn the world to ash before I lose either of you again. She kissed him then. Hard, desperate, teeth clashing, blood smearing between their lips. A kiss that tasted like goodbye and Genesis at the same time. Rosa handed him a fresh magazine and a set of keys. Truck's loaded. You've got 8 hours. Vincent walked out into the dying night carrying the end of his empire in a duffel bag. Behind him, Serena closed her eyes and mouthed a silent prayer to whatever God still listened to prosecutors and killers. At 05:12 a.m., Vincent's phone buzzed with a new video message. He opened it with blood-slick fingers. Luna's face filled the screen, eyes red from crying, a new bruise blooming across her cheek. Behind her, Elena Crow smiled into the camera. Then Crow's voice, calm and intimate. Change of plans, Vincent. Bring the prosecutor wife to the meet tonight, unharmed, or I start cutting smiles into the kid that never heal. The video ended with Luna's broken sob. Vincent punched the warehouse wall so hard the cinder block cracked. He looked back once at the closed door hiding Serena, then at the city waiting to burn. And for the first time in his life, Vincent Moretti was truly, utterly out of moves. The phone buzzed again. This time it was the FBI emergency tone Serena had programmed. He answered. The agent's voice was clipped. Final. New development. Crow just moved the meet to an abandoned church in South Philly. He wants both of you. Midnight and Moretti. If either of you is late, we go in hot and the kid becomes collateral. Click. Vincent stared at the explosives in the truck bed. Midnight suddenly felt a lifetime away, and the clock was already bleeding. The abandoned church on Moyamensing Avenue looked like God had walked out and taken the light with him. Stained glass saints stared down with broken faces, moonlight knifing through bullet holes in the roof. Pews lay overturned like corpses. The air tasted of incense, mold, and fresh blood. Vincent came in through the sacristy, thigh wound throbbing with every step. Detonator remote taped to his forearm under the sleeve. Serena walked 3 paces behind, wire live under her skin, FBI TAC teams ghosting rooftops a block out, waiting for Crow to hang himself with words. They had argued for an hour. She wanted him cuffed in the van with the feds. He refused to let her walk in without a loaded gun in his hand. They compromised. He carried 1 pistol, no backup, no soldiers. A suicide pact dressed as surrender. Crow waited beneath the cracked crucifix, arms spread like a dark messiah. Elena stood to his left, Luna on her hip, a chrome .38 pressed flat against the baby's spine. 10 of Crow's shooters ringed the altar, rifles low but ready. The second Vincent saw the bruise on Luna's cheek, something inside him died screaming. "On your knees, both of you," Crow said, voice echoing off stone. "Hands where I can see them." Serena moved first, slow, deliberate, dropping to the cold marble. Vincent stayed standing. Crow smiled. "Still think you're in charge, Vinny?" Vincent's eyes never left his daughter. "You wanted us. You have us. Let her go." Crow laughed, stepped closer. "First you sign." He kicked a leather folio across the floor. Inside, dissolution papers, every territory, every account, every soldier transferred to Damien Crow effective immediately. Serena's voice was ice. "You talk first, Damien. Tell me how you survived the river. Tell me about the girls in the containers. Tell me why a dead man is stupid enough to touch my child." Crow's grin widened. Perfect. The wire was drinking it all. He started talking. Arrogant, unstoppable. Albania safe houses, plastic surgeons in Prague, the new pipeline moving kids through the port like cattle. Every word a nail in his own coffin. Vincent's pulse slowed to a predator crawl. He watched Elena's trigger finger, watched Luna's tiny chest jerk with each terrified breath. Crow finished his confession with theatrical flair. "And when I'm done, I'm putting a bullet in the great Vincent Moretti in front of his whore and his brat." Poetry. Serena's lips barely moved. "Copy that," she whispered. "The signal." Outside, glass exploded as FBI breachers hit every window at once. Flashbangs turned night into noon. "Federal agents, drop it!" Crow's men panicked, rifles rising. Everything happened in the same heartbeat. Vincent dove left, drawing his Glock. Crow lunged for Luna. Elena swung the .38 towards Serena. The first FBI round took Elena high in the shoulder. She spun, blood spraying, but kept her grip on Luna. Serena launched herself across the marble, tackling Elena at the knees. They crashed into the altar steps, Luna tumbling free with a piercing wail. Vincent rolled, came up firing. 2 rounds center mass into the nearest shooter, then pivoted toward Crow. Crow had a knife now, wicked 8-inch blade, and he drove it straight into Vincent's side just below the ribs. Pain exploded, white hot. Vincent roared, slammed the butt of his pistol into Crow's temple, felt bone give. They went down together between overturned pews, knife twisting deeper. Blood poured hot down Vincent's hip. Crow hissed in his face, "You lose!" Vincent headbutted him, cartilage crunching, then jammed the Glock under Crow's chin. Around them, gunfire stitched the air. FBI agents in black dropped Crow's men one by one. Precise, merciless. Serena scrambled on hands and knees, scooping Luna against her chest, shielding the baby with her body as rounds whined overhead. Vincent's vision tunneled. Crow's eyes were inches away, wild with hate. "See you in hell," Crow spat. Vincent pulled the trigger. The round took the top of Crow's head off, gray matter painting the crucifix behind him. Silence fell like a guillotine. Only breathing remained, harsh, ragged, human. Vincent dropped the empty gun, hands slick red. He crawled toward Serena and Luna on shredded knees. Serena was on her back, Luna clutched tight, both of them painted in blood that wasn't the baby's. Vincent reached them, collapsed, gathering them against him. Luna's tiny fingers tangled in his shirt, sticky with his blood, and she sobbed, "Dada," for the first time in her life. Vincent's throat closed. He buried his face in Serena's neck, shaking. FBI boots pounded closer, radios crackled. "Suspect down! Clear!" An agent loomed above them, rifle lowered. "Vincent Moretti, stand up! You're under arrest." Vincent didn't move. Serena's eyes fluttered. She was pale as death, blood pumping steady from 2 holes in her lower abdomen. Crow's men had tagged her in the chaos. She gripped Vincent's hand, slick and weak. "Promise," she rasped. "Promise me." Vincent pressed his forehead to hers. "I already did." The agent reached for cuffs. Vincent looked up, eyes flat black. "Touch me, and I swear on my daughter's life, every Fed in this church dies tonight." The agent hesitated. Serena's grip went slack. Her pulse fluttered once under Vincent's fingers, then stopped. Luna wailed against her mother's silent chest. Vincent's roar was inhuman. He scooped Serena into his arms, blood pouring from her wounds onto his, and stood. Agents leveled rifles. Vincent stared them down, cradling his dying wife and screaming child, covered in the brains of the man who broke them. "Back the fuck up!" he roared. "She needs a medic now!" Radios exploded with frantic chatter. Outside, sirens wailed closer. Ambulances, finally. Vincent sank to his knees in the aisle, Serena limp in his arms, Luna screaming between them. Blood pooled beneath them, thick and shining under the broken saints. Serena's lips moved one last time, barely sound. Vincent leaned close. "I'm sorry," she breathed. Then her eyes rolled back. The first paramedic crashed through the doors, shouting for space. Vincent rocked his family in the ruins of the church, covered in blood and gunpowder and the end of everything he used to be. And somewhere in the distance, a new phone began to ring, Marco's emergency tone. Vincent didn't hear it. He was too busy screaming Serena's name into a night that refused to give her back. The trauma bay at Jefferson smelled of bleach, blood, and burnt hope. Vincent stood in the hallway outside the OR, shirt soaked crimson, hands cuffed behind his back to a steel bench bolted to the floor. 2 FBI agents flanked him, rifles slung, faces carved from stone. His thigh wound had reopened, blood dripped steady onto the tile, a slow red clock counting down what was left of his life. Inside the operating room, Serena was dying in pieces. 2 rounds had shredded her lower abdomen, one through the liver, one nicked the iliac artery. They'd lost her pulse twice on the table. The surgeon's last update, delivered through a mask spattered with her blood. "We're trying, but she's drowning in it." Luna was somewhere upstairs in PIDS, sedated, dehydrated, bruised, but alive. Vincent hadn't seen her yet. They wouldn't let him. Said he was a flight risk, said he was evidence. Marco arrived 20 minutes ago, escorted by 4 marshals. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. His suit was wrinkled, eyes red, knuckles split. He stopped in front of Vincent, ignoring the agents. "They're moving you to Curran Fromhold at dawn," he said quietly. "Federal holding. Life, no parole. They're calling it felony murder for every body in that church that wasn't wearing a badge." Vincent didn't blink. "Serena?" "Still cutting," Marco's voice cracked. "They took 3 units from me while you were in X-ray. My blood type matches hers." Vincent stared at the floor, at the widening pool beneath his boots. "Crow's dead. Elena's in custody. Luna's safe. Tell me the cost was worth it." Marco leaned in until the agents shifted. "Cost is you rot, boss. That's the deal she made. Your freedom for Luna's heartbeat." Vincent closed his eyes. He could still feel Serena's blood cooling on his skin, still hear her last whispered apology. A nurse burst through the OR doors, mask down, face gray. She looked straight at Vincent. "She's crashing again. We need permission to open her chest." Vincent surged to his feet, cuffs biting wrists raw. "Do whatever you have to. Keep her alive." The nurse hesitated. "You're not family on paper. She's my fucking wife." The roar echoed down the corridor. Orderlies froze. "Cut her open, crack her ribs, sell my organs if you have to. Just don't let her die." The nurse ran back inside. Marco crouched, voice low. "There's something else." He slid his hand into Vincent's cuffed ones behind the bench. Metal scraped skin. A handcuff key pressed into Vincent's palm. Vincent's fingers closed around it like a lifeline. Marco didn't look at him. "Half the soldiers are downstairs. The other half are dead or scattered. The ones left are yours until you breathe your last. Say the word and we walk you out bloody." Vincent's pulse thundered in his ears. Freedom. One twist of the key and he could disappear into the city, take Luna, vanish before the marshals finished their coffee. Serena would wake up to an empty bed and a warrant with his name on it. He looked at the OR doors, at the red light above them still screaming, "Emergency." He thought of Serena's last words in the church, "Promise me you stay." Vincent opened his hand. The key fell from his fingers, clinked once on the tile, and rolled into the puddle of his own blood. "Tell the men to stand down," he said. Marco stared like he'd been shot. "Vincent, I gave her my word." His voice was raw gravel. "Tell them the king is dead." Marco's eyes filled. He nodded once, sharp, and stepped back. 2 U.S. Marshals appeared at the end of the hall, chains ready. The OR doors flew open again. The surgeon stepped out, gown soaked red to the elbows, mask hanging loose. He looked at Vincent, then at the Marshals. "She's stable," he said. "Barely. We stopped the bleeding. She'll never walk again. Spinal cord was nicked, but she's alive." Vincent sagged against the bench, breath exploding out of him like he'd been holding it for years. The surgeon continued, quieter. "She's asking for you. Only you." One of the FBI agents started to protest. Vincent stood. Blood dripped faster from his leg. "Uncuff me!" The agent hesitated, looked at the surgeon, at the marshals, at the man bleeding on the floor who'd just surrendered everything. He produced the key. Vincent walked into the recovery room alone. Serena lay small and pale under white sheets, tubes in her arms, machines breathing for her. Her eyes opened when he entered, green, fierce, alive. He dropped to his knees beside the bed, pressed his forehead to her hand. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." She squeezed his fingers once. Weak, but there. Outside the door, the marshals waited with new cuffs. Federal steel this time. No key in the building. Vincent kissed her knuckles, tasting salt and antiseptic. The lead marshal stepped in. "Time's up, Moretti." Vincent stood slowly. He looked at Serena one last time. She mouthed 2 words. "For Luna." He nodded. They cuffed his hands in front of him this time, so the cameras could get the shot. As they led him out past the nursery window, Vincent caught a glimpse of Luna asleep in a crib, tiny chest rising and falling under cartoon blankets. He stopped walking. The marshals yanked him forward, and that's when the lights in the entire hospital died. Every monitor flatlined into black. Emergency red strobes kicked on. Gunfire erupted from the stairwells, short, controlled bursts. Marco's voice crackled over the hospital intercom, calm and final. "Code Black, all loyal dogs to the king. We're bringing him home." The marshals reached for their weapons. Vincent smiled for the first time in days, slow, savage, and utterly unafraid. The cuffs hit the floor with a metallic scream, and the hallway exploded into war. The Jersey Shore house sits low and white against the dunes, windows open to salt and wind, no gates, no guards, no cameras. Just gulls screaming overhead and the endless crash of waves erasing footprints every 7 seconds. Vincent Moretti is 47 now, hair more salt than pepper, scars mapped across his chest like a topographical record of every debt paid in blood. He wakes at 5 a.m. every morning, same as prison taught him, makes coffee strong enough to strip paint, and stands on the porch watching the horizon until the sun burns the dark out of him. Inside, Serena moves slow but steady on carbon fiber braces and a cane carved from black walnut. The surgeons said she'd never walk. She proved them wrong the first time Luna asked why Mommy couldn't chase her on the beach. Some fires burn hotter than medical fact. Luna is 5.5, all knees and elbows and fearless laughter. She races across the wet sand in a red swimsuit, shrieking as the cold Atlantic bites her ankles. Vincent follows at a distance, barefoot, jeans rolled, pushing Serena's lightweight beach wheelchair through the surf. "Daddy, watch!" Luna yells, throwing herself into a wave that knocks her flat. She comes up coughing, grinning, hair plastered to her face like seaweed. Vincent laughs, a sound that still surprises him, deep, real, unguarded. Serena watches from the chair, sunglasses hiding the tears that come every single time she sees them together. Her hand rests on the slight curve beneath her linen dress. 4 months along, a boy this time. They're calling him Mateo after the grandfather Luna will never meet. The empire is ash. Every stash house, every account, every soldier who wouldn't let go, gone. Some blown to rubble the night Vincent walked out of that hospital in borrowed scrubs and someone else's blood. Some simply vanished into the machine of federal forfeiture. The Moretti name is a ghost story now, whispered in prison yards and back rooms that no longer belong to him. He works the fishing boats out of Cape May when the weather allows. Hands that once signed death, warrants now gut mackerel and haul crab pots until his palms bleed. He likes the ache, likes that it's honest. At night, he reads to Luna. Pirates, dragons, anything with monsters that can be slain by the last page. Serena falls asleep on the couch beside them, cane propped against the armrest like a sword she no longer needs. They have never spoken about the 38 months he served before the pardon came through, about the nights he spent staring at ceiling cracks, counting heartbeats until he could come home, about the letters Serena wrote every single week, pages soaked in salt she refused to call tears, some debts you pay in silence. Today the tide is high and wild. Luna builds a sandcastle the size of a fortress, tongue sticking out in concentration. Vincent kneels to help, packing wet sand with hands that once crushed throats. Serena watches them, wind tugging her hair loose from its braid. A black SUV creeps along the service road half a mile back, windows tinted darker than legal. Vincent clocks it instantly. Old habits. He doesn't tense, doesn't reach for the gun that hasn't been under the floorboards in 4 years. The SUV stops. A man gets out, tall, lean, hair gone silver at the temples. Marco. He walks the dunes slow, hands open and visible, the way you approach a wolf that might still bite. Vincent stands, brushing sand from his knees. Marco stops 10 feet away. The years have not been kind to him either. Face carved deep, eyes older than sin. "Thought you were dead," Vincent says. "Close enough," Marco answers. "Had to be sure you were too." Serena's hand tightens on the armrest of her chair. Luna looks up, curious. Sandcastle forgotten. Marco's gaze flicks to the little girl, softens for half a second, then hardens again. "They found something," he says, "in the rubble of the old sugar refinery, after all these years." Vincent waits. Marco pulls a small evidence bag from his coat. Inside, a gold crow pin, bent and blackened by fire, but unmistakable. "DNA came back yesterday," Marco continues. "Not Damien, not Elena." He meets Vincent's eyes. It's fresh, less than 6 months old. The wind shifts, suddenly cold. Marco drops his voice so only Vincent hears. "Someone's wearing his colors again. Someone who knows exactly where you buried the bodies, and they're asking questions about a little girl with gray eyes and a daddy who used to rule the coast." Luna laughs behind them. oblivious, as a wave destroys half her castle. Vincent looks at his daughter, at his wife, at the life he clawed out of hell with broken fingernails. He takes the evidence bag from Marco's hand, turns it once in the sunlight, then lets it fall into the surf. The crow pin sinks fast, swallowed by sand and water. Vincent meets Marco's stare. "Tell them Vincent Moretti died in that church," he says, voice calm, lethal quiet. "Tell them the man standing here has nothing left to take." Marco studies him for a long moment, then nods once, turns, and walks back to the SUV. The engine starts, tires spit sand, the black dot disappears down the coast road. Vincent kneels again, helps Luna rebuild the broken tower. Serena watches him, eyes sharp behind the sunglasses. He doesn't look at her when he speaks. "If they come," he says, packing sand tight, "they'll learn what a man with nothing left to lose is truly capable of." Luna pats the castle's final turret and grins up at him. "Daddy, will it stand forever?" Vincent kisses the top of her salty head. "No, baby," he murmurs. "Nothing does." Far out on the horizon, a new storm gathers, black clouds rolling in like an army with old scores to settle. Vincent stands, brushes sand from his hands, and looks toward the coming dark. He smiles. "Let them come."